Greetings and welcome this evening of your time as you create time to exist. How are you all? Are you all alive? Oh, thank you. Allow me to proceed and entitle this interaction, It Takes One to Know One. Allow me to begin in the following way. Very often we will speak to your society as the creators of your reality that you are. And in communicating this idea to you, explain that you can only experience the reality. You can only experience the results or have the experience that you are the vibration of. From time to time, there will arise some confusion from members of your society as to exactly what does the vibration of mean. And perhaps that is a fair question. The idea is that as consciousness, which is what you are in your pristine state, in your natural state, you are, energetically speaking, expressed as a frequency or a vibration within the overall primary frequency you call God, and we call all that is. So therefore, in one sense, you may say that your particular expression, your particular statement is a vibration. And the difference in that vibration, the difference in that frequency determines the distinct and discrete personality that you are. Now, this is all well and good and perhaps sounds nice, but it is also quite practical. For in a physical world, though you are consciousness, you create certain ideas that are distinct in physical reality. One of those ideas is what you call time and a timeline and unfolding along that timeline. But being again that this is physicality, physical action is the ultimate expression in this life of your vibration. Physical action is the expression of the statement of who you are in any given moment. Physical action is the ultimate evidence of a belief that you hold. For you truly, when you say you create your reality according to your beliefs, do so through the mechanism of action. For you act as though you believe something. You act as a person who believes a particular belief, and it is those actions that midwife the belief into reality. So therefore, whatever you do in any given moment, and in what you call succession of moments, determines a particular expression or a particular version of your vibration. And when you change your actions, you will change a component, shall I say, of your vibration. Now understand, one component, so to speak, of your vibration is constant or consistent. And perhaps you can call that your signature vibration. That is the aspect of you that allows you to know no matter how you change physically, and the physical world seems to change around you, that you are still the same you. So that sense of being who you are is the core of your vibration, your signature vibration. But the surrounding, shall I say, component of your vibration is changing and is expressed, again, according to the actions of your life. So when I say you can only experience the reality that you are the vibration of, one other way to interpret this is that you can only experience the reality that you act like or act as if it is most likely. So therefore, it is not that you are a slave to your beliefs, for until you act upon those beliefs, nothing happens. They simply stay there in the mental, so to speak, plane. And the good news in this idea is that you can explore any mental idea, any belief that you wish, without performing the actions and not have a physical effect or an experience from it. You can therefore very safely explore your beliefs. Look at the things that you believe, and again, as long as you do not act upon them, you will not create them and can simply evaluate, view them, and see if they are still the beliefs that you wish to hold in your life. So therefore, the vibration that you are is the reality that you experience. And in that sense, it takes one to know one. You must be one in order to know or see something. Now, allow us to expand this a bit further. For one other thing that you can understand, very often you will assume that you learn things that you did not know. Now, from one perspective, this may seem accurate, but from the perspective of your infinite self, everything already exists within you. So from that perspective, you simply remember things you already knew and have chosen to place an amnesia on yourself to explore from a different angle and experience as if anew. But you already contain everything again in your pristine, in your natural, what you sometimes call in your soul state. So therefore, you may understand, when you feel that you learn something, or when you feel that something rings true with who you are, something is stated and it really means something to you, or someone says something that brings you great joy. In order to understand that, in order to make sense of it, you must already, on some level, contain that idea. In order to know it, you must be that idea. So therefore, when hearing information that you find most helpful or most joyful from any source, not limited to, but including us, you need not ascribe a compliment to us or to the source. Now, you can acknowledge that that source was the trigger, but you can understand that we give nothing to you. We literally teach nothing to you. We simply allow you through trigger to remember what you already know. And when you see again something that you find quite joyful, you can, in that sense, affirm or acknowledge that a particular source may have triggered that. But the point here is that you can also pat yourself on the back for you understood it. It made sense to you, meaning that you contain it, are now remembering what you already knew. Again, from the perspective of your eternal self, you never truly learn anything new. You simply remember and reincorporate ideas that you have chosen to forget through exploration. Through the viewpoint of your physical self, we understand that it seems that you were an empty slate that then was filled as your life went on. But that is part of the exploration in and of itself, imposing such a forgetfulness that you actually can learn or seem to learn, that you can actually discover something as if anew, that you can actually experience the joy of surprise, not knowing what is to come next. For when you are all-knowing and when you are expressing your all-knowingness, these things do not exist. You cannot discover anything, you know it all. You cannot learn anything, you know it all. And you cannot be surprised, for it is all evident and nothing can creep up and surprise you in that way. So one of the reasons that you even create a physical reality is to explore the joy of discovery itself. You literally forget everything in order to enjoy the process of remembering it and experiencing it as being fresh, as being new, as being fascinating, as again being unexpected. And this is part of the joy of the choice that you have all made to forget 99.999% of who you are. And if you begin to look at it this way and begin to get down to the business of being curious and fascinated by your reality, you will begin to truly glean why you have chosen to be here. For when you say, I was put here or I am stuck here, you are simply not acknowledging your hand in choosing to be here. And when you do not acknowledge it, you remove your ability to change your creations. For if something is happening to you, where is the power? The power is in the external reality. If you understand that it is happening from you in the way that we are sharing, it hands you back the power, and you can then change it if you don't like the way it is. For again, your actions always express your truest beliefs. We have explained many times that as discrete personalities, perhaps one way that you can look at it is that you are a prism. You break down the white light of infinite creation, or the white light of your soul or higher self, through the three-sided prism of your beliefs, emotions, and thoughts. These are the ideas that make you a distinct individual, that assist in shaping your vibration. But again, ultimately, it is the actions performed that create physically the manifestation of that vibration. We have also discussed that because emotions and thoughts are always a result of a belief, that you can use your emotions and you can use your thoughts to trace back to beliefs that you may have bought into unconsciously. And when you then acknowledge those beliefs, they are now conscious. And the acknowledgement and allowing them to be conscious allows you to choose new beliefs, for you cannot choose new beliefs in denial of the old, but only in acknowledgement, for that acknowledgement equalizes the weight of that belief to all other beliefs. So you can use your emotions to trace back what you believe, and again, we have discussed this quite often. What we have not always then extrapolated and continued to discuss is that you can also do so by allowing your actions to be an obvious window to your beliefs. For again, you always act as if you believe something. You do not act in a vacuum. You always act with a foundational, fundamental belief, emotion, and thought. So therefore, you can also use your actions as a reflection of the state of your vibration, and your actions as a reflection of the state of some of the beliefs that you are holding that perhaps you no longer choose to hold. So as we have often suggested, that you begin to allow yourself to feel your negative and limiting emotions rather than squelching, denying them, allowing yourself to feel them and asking yourself what a person must believe who would feel this, and using those emotions to trace the belief itself, nailing it down to decide whether you wish to change it or not. You can also do so quite effectively utilizing your actions. And you will find that you always create what you believe, but only because you act that way. And when you begin to see which actions you perform, perhaps actions that result from a limiting or negative belief, you begin again to get an idea that will allow you to take back your power and change that belief. For again, the only reason you get the effect of that belief is you act that way, according to that belief, giving you that effect. So where we have often suggested that your imagination comes into play as an active tool is once you have acknowledged an old unpreferred limiting belief that you have nailed down according to your emotions, and now we are speaking nailed down according to your actions, you can phrase the preferred belief and hand over to your imagination, allowing your imagination to create a person or an image that already has that belief, and allowing your imagination to show you how a person with the new preferred belief would act, how they would react or do in any given situation. Once you create this preferred you model in your imagination, you can hand any situation over to it, and it will show you what a person who believes this thing that you say you prefer to believe would do in that given situation. So therefore, if you find that you have an old belief and an old set of actions, you acknowledge that. Then you call forth the new belief and allow your imagination to provide a new set of actions. Those actions will be vastly different. The actions of the new preferred belief will be most obvious and blatantly different from the actions of the old non-preferred belief. And you will have right in front of you two different options that obviously will have to have two completely different results. Therefore, you can begin to look at your beliefs, and before acting upon perhaps the more limiting beliefs, you can create through your imagination the preferred you as a reference, and allow yourself to hand over the situation to that preferred you, seeing what they do and coming up with an alternate set of actions. Even going through this seeming process and producing the new set of actions according to the preferred belief will always give you a set of actions that once you allow yourself to see that those actions are an option, will be most simple to choose the new actions rather than the old. So there is no difficult process involved in changing your beliefs and the results of them. For even in giving yourself the benefit of another choice, that choice, when you allow yourself to see it, is so much more, shall I say, attractive, so much more representative of what you would prefer to create, that you can head off your old beliefs devolving into unpreferred actions by simply providing the alternative, using your imagination as a tool. Now, I remind you that you already create your reality this way. You simply do it automatically and with no thought, but you always act according to what you believe. So we are not asking you to do anything difficult or anything that you need practice at. Simply are speaking about being more conscious about deciding what you want to believe and deciding what you want to create. And then letting all the beliefs that you have bought into unconsciously that may prevent that from happening to come up in the form of emotions, but also in the form of actions. Watch what you do when you are doing something you do not prefer. And rather than judging yourself for doing it, ask yourself, what must I believe to be doing this? What must any person believe in this situation to be doing this? A belief will be again forthcoming. A belief will be presented to you from, perhaps you can say, your subconscious in one way of thinking of it, and it will be completely obvious that, well, obviously anyone who is doing this must believe this. And that belief is now in your control to change, for you have acknowledged it. I remind you that acknowledgement gives you back the power of choice. Denial takes the belief that you do not prefer and adds more weight, making it more likely that you will act upon it, for you are in denial of it rather than acknowledgement. All these beliefs exist within you anyway. You do not contain a belief and not contain its opposite. Your ability to even imagine anything shows you that you contain that as well. And again, I'd remind you, since you are infinite and contain everything, there is no outside. There is nowhere to put anything, put something. So you cannot get rid of a belief you do not prefer, but you can re-emphasize your relationship to a belief that you do not prefer. You can make a belief that you do not prefer irrelevant to the actions of your life. And therefore that belief will still exist within you, but simply not be an expression of the choice, consciously or subconsciously, to live that belief. So therefore, all we are suggesting is to begin to watch what you do. When you do the things that you prefer, in using this particular approach, you will find that you do the things that you prefer and be due to positive beliefs that are preferable and non-limiting beliefs. But when you watch the things that you do that you no longer prefer without judging them, then you can see other things that perhaps you still believe that it may behoove you to acknowledge so you can change them. Is this clear? Do you understand the value in a physical world of the action phase? That is your ultimate expression in physical reality. It is the ultimate manifestation of what you believe. And again, you can always tell what someone believes, someone else even, by simply watching what they do in a situation. For it is always blatantly obvious that the actions, as well as the emotions and thoughts, are directly a mirror, are directly a window to what you believe. So therefore, transforming your entire life according to preference is truly quite simple. But it is a matter of being mindful, and it is a matter of beginning now to choose to perpetuate the behavior that you prefer and to choose to use the behavior that you do not prefer. Now, before we proceed to the interaction, simply allow me to say that one of the ways that you lock yourself up from not using the actions that you don't prefer is through what you call self-judgment. For when you judge those actions, well, I shouldn't have done that, dumb me. You do not put yourself in the conducive mental state to glean positivity and glean meaning from it. You are far too busy beating yourself up. So therefore, if you find yourself judging unpreferred actions, so what? When you judge yourself for judging yourself, then you compound the judgment, and the judgment becomes what is overwhelming. When you simply acknowledge, all right, I have judged myself, but now I will go a step further and use these actions. What must I believe to have done this? Well, perhaps I believe I was helpless in this particular way. All right. If I felt I was helpless, a helpless person would act like this. Now, how would a powerful person act in this same exact situation? Plug that into your imagination. Look at how the preferred you in your imagination acts in the same situation. Look at how they hold themselves. Look at how their composure remains. Look at how they deal with other individuals. You can use this method in the very simple way to replace the unpreferred actions, but not while you are in the process of beating yourself up and knocking yourself down through judgment. So therefore, judgment slows down the process. Judgment creates more separation within you and does not reflect acknowledgement and willingness to change the things that you no longer prefer, understanding that it is within your power to change anything in your life that you no longer prefer. Again, I remind you that you have so much power as a creator that you can create anything at all, and I mean anything, that you wish without harming yourself or someone else. Sometimes trust in timing comes into play when exercising this power. But that is truly the extent of your great power. It is actually less of a powerful expression, an expression of less power to get what you want at the cost of someone else. That is technically easier and requires less power. But you have so much overwhelming power, you actually have the capability of creating the life that you prefer without harming yourself, without harming anyone else. This is the true degree of the power that you all possess to create your own reality. Allow me now to thank you all for interacting with me in this way. For you will understand that within my society, this is simply all automatic. And we discuss this with you, for as you become more like an integrated society, which is how we choose to express ourselves, that places you of a vibration that is similar to our own, similar enough that we can perceive each other. For vibration, the vibration that you are, also determines what you perceive and also determines what you attract and what you can interact with. The universe is an infinite statement with many overlapping realities, literally in the same space at the same time, only separated by difference in frequency, difference in vibration. And as through your actions you shift your vibration, not only do you change the effects of what occur in your life, but you change the effects of what you perceive, and you change the effects of which realities are more alike your own, and therefore which realities you can now attract. Were you to 20 to 50 of your years ago explore many of the surrounding galaxies, space travel wise, you would have found very little life, for your vibration as a society was so different from much of this life that you simply would not have perceived each other, literally physically. But as your vibration as a society and individually shifts, your perception shifts. And you are now, as a society, beginning to see more identification with what you would call extraterrestrial sources. For you are, perhaps, as a pendulum, once in a while swinging into the vibration of certain other civilizations and certain other realities. This is one of the reasons that some of the extraterrestrial interactions with members of your society will seem to be a bit out of phase with your reality, a bit dreamlike. For still are the vibrations somewhat dissimilar. They are similar enough to now perceive each other, but still dissimilar so that there is still a slight incongruency. As you begin to act and live according to preference, desire, and unconditional love, you will find the many expressions within the multiverse to begin to be attracted unto you of same vibration. One of them is my society and my civilization, but we are not by any means the only. One of the things that I am truly thanking you for is that as a society and again individually, you have become enough alike of our vibration. There is still quite a bit of difference, by the way, but enough alike for us to have these conversations, for us to at least communicate with you in some way. In general, it will be mental. In a case such as this, it is mental removed once, whereby we utilize within the channel his vocabulary, for we do not speak your language, and are able, because you are of like enough vibration, to communicate through this particular medium, so to speak, thereby, again, allowing for an interaction and an exchange. So we thank you for your willingness, individually and societally, to begin to embody ideas of integration, of unconditional love, of understanding that we are all one expression, many different facets, many different explorations within, but within one expression, one event that you call all that is. And you may understand that pretty much any of the societies that you will interact with have their own notion of what you call God, but it is not a separated notion. It is not something out there. It is something within, and you are all literally viewpoints or eyes, if you will, of all that is, or God itself. Each one a distinct viewpoint within the one event that is all that is. So we express our unconditional love and appreciation to you for your willingness to begin to co-create a third reality that we both can step upon, that we both can exist within. As your particular orientation comes closer to ours, the possibility for face-to-face interaction becomes more possible. But right now, there are still many things that you still deny and still refuse to look at within yourself, for you feel they can destroy you. As I have just shared, nothing can destroy you, and perhaps the only thing that can even seem to would be an idea that you act upon, not simply think it. We do not play, in that sense, that particular game within reality, for we no longer in any way deny anything. So were we to come physically into your proximity, our vibration, our bioenergetic field, what you would perhaps call our aura, will express this complete idea, this non-broken energy field. When you, as beings, deny aspects of who you are, colloquially speaking, as an analogy, you create gaps within your own energy field. And when you place our fields in proximity, rather than your frequency, perhaps you can say driving our frequency downward a few notches, ours tend to elevate yours up a few notches, so to speak. And therefore, the things that you deny and have refused to look at come rushing all at once to the surface, which is in general a bit uncomfortable for you. This is one of the reasons very often why when individuals interact with us and other extraterrestrial societies physically, but sometimes even us in a telepathic way, they begin to create ideas of intense fear for no apparent reason. The fear is not in general of the situation or of us. The fear is all these things that you deny flooding to the surface all at once from being in physical proximity to, again, an accelerated bioenergetic field. So this is one of the physical reasons that we have not, to this point, interacted face-to-face with your reality. Now, this has changed quite a bit over the last 9 of your years. Quite a bit. And there would be less of this reaction, if you wish to call it that, were we to meet face-to-face now than we would have even just 1 to 3 of your years ago. But there would still be some effect. You are seeing within your society, through what you call your media, the drummings up of many of the societal things that have heretofore been denied. Many of them are negative. Many of them surround what you call physical, mental, and so on, abuse and things such as this, which have remained hidden and are now flooding to the surface in many blatant ways. This is a direct sign, since your mental mass consciousness is a reflection of your individual consciousness, that your society is now ready to begin to look at many of the things that you have heretofore denied. So the day where we can meet face to face draws closer and nearer. It again is not necessary that we do so, but it is more and more likely all the time. And you see the signs of it not only in yourself, not only in the acceleration of your own explorations, but societally speaking as well. For that, I thank you and simply ask you now how I may be of service to you and we may be of service mutually to each other. Sharing. Ace. Greetings and good day.
Good day. It's nice to be here again. To thank you.
It's nice to be here as well and have you there.
I wanted to share something with you about the last intensive interaction that I attended.
Oh, please do.
And it goes along with what you were talking about. I got in touch with a self-loathing in myself that I knew I had, but never to the extent.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I had some externals that helped me with that, and I did thank my symbols for helping me show how much I invalidate myself.
You sound like you believe it.
Oh, I know. I do. Very much. What I wanted to share with you was something that you had shared in one of your other interactions, which was to feel it, to really feel the self-loathing. And I did that. It frightened the heck out of me.
Well, individuals assume that will overcome and destroy them. What we have shared is that if you are going to create the messenger in that form, allow the messenger full audience. What did you actually find when doing that? For I assume you did not combust, for you are here.
Exactly. What I did was I challenged the feeling. I just said, come on, whatever you give me, I'm not going to die. You know? Actually speaking to myself, I think. And I allowed that hate to come to the surface.
And what was the interesting thing that you found?
That I really loved myself.
Well, also that when you allow yourself to feel an emotion, it is not an endless, infinite idea. You actually get to the point where you say, all right, now what? It is not something that continues to come. When individuals are in denial, the belief keeps coming back in the form of an emotion. So it seems persistent and it seems constant. But when you actually acknowledge it and allow it to deliver the message that it is created to deliver, it does not remain constant and persistent, for it has, all right, lived its usefulness in that way. So we thank you for your expression and your version of demonstrating what we speak of. Is there something else?
Yes, there is. After this occurred, I've had ringing in my ears since last November. I was in a car accident. When I went to bed that evening, I had put out the clear intention that any energy that could help me empower myself to speak to me in my dreams. And that happened. I had a woman speak to me through my left ear all night long, it seemed to me anyway. Could you tell me who she was?
Well, you tell me.
Well, I got the sense it was Othron, but in a woman's voice.
Well, understand that from that end, the energy is quite undifferentiated, so contains both. And perhaps that was one of the points, to understand the balance of the two. For you are both, though you engender yourself, you become male, female physically. And your society will not always acknowledge this, but contain both energies. You both contain female energy and male energy, female expression and male expression. This is even evident in what you call your hormonal system. For though you predominantly will have a hormone that is, in that sense, definitive of one gender, you also have the others. And this is a direct physical analogy to the idea that within your consciousness, you contain both energies, the female being the receptive, the female being the intuitive, the willingness to inflow, and the male simply being the outflow, the assertiveness, the action-orientedness.
So you're saying that was off wrong?
Well, as in that sense, you were allowing yourself to become more receptive, your guide was expressed through the female receptive energy, acknowledging that choice.
Then the next day, I had a real strong headache, and I laid down to relieve the headache. And as I was laying with my eyes closed, I realized I started focusing, and as I focused in, I saw a wonderful face, a face of an extraterrestrial with a smile, and it was so wonderful. And I got the sense that it was either you or someone of your race. Is that true? Was it you?
What is your sense?
Yes.
And I ask you to allow you to be obvious. Yes. In other words, when you ask the question, you already knew that.
Yes.
And you need not ask me for validation, but simply share with me, I saw you. And I will say, congratulations. It was good to see you too.
I also heard you the next day. At one time, and it's that simple, you told me to pick up the phone with the ringing in my ears. I picked it up, and you were on the other end.
And did the ringing cease?
Yes.
And what did I say? Or what is your interpretation of what I intended to say?
You told me not to hang up.
And then what?
Well, I started to, and then I started using the channel's name, and I said, Andrew, why are you teasing me? I wouldn't believe that it was you. I wouldn't believe it was Elan.
Why?
Because I don't believe I deserve.
Andrew, perhaps on some level, would not believe he has the ability to communicate with you in that way. I fully understand that I do, and have fully also always shared with all members of your society that our stream of consciousness is available. You can all tap into it by simply recreating in your heart how interacting with me feels and allowing whatever message accompanies that to come through. So thank you in that sense for sharing our energy in that way.
That's all for now. Thank you.
And I thank you as well. Sharing.
Elan,
Yes.
greetings.
And to you.
I was going to ask you about the signature vibrations, and let me explain what I'm thinking about.
All right.
The shifting of vibrations and the chemistry different people seem to have, and sometimes it's very strong and sometimes you just don't get along with a certain person, and sometimes it works with the whole group. You just grow away from that group, the whole group, and you mingle with some other groups. Is it what it's shifting of your own vibration? You meet people that are right for you.
Well, meet people that are in similar exploration, that have similar perspectives, and that the meeting would provide a commonality for mutual exchange. Again, as an analogy, and this is quite a physical, limiting way to look at it, but in one sense it is descriptive. If you consider yourself a sphere of consciousness, and that in the core of that sphere is your signature portion of your vibration, which is unchanging, each person's signature vibration ultimately has equal attraction to everyone else's. Perhaps again, as an onion, if you were to wrap around that core your superficial, and again, this is simply an analogy, but your superficial vibration, which is the vibration which will change as you change your actions, that outer more layer is the layer that will determine what you physically attract. Signature-wise, you are all attracted to each other. It is the layers around that core that will seem to filter who you actually wind up having good vibes with, so to speak.
And what about the chemistry? Some people just don't have the chemistry and they don't get along. And both of
Well, that is an expression, once again, as we are sharing, of the more superficial outer layer of the vibration that is determined by your actions. For if you change your actions and then the results of those actions change, in no uncertain terms, you will attract different individuals. And many of the individuals who you attracted through the old actions and vibrations will simply no longer be interested in what you are exploring. So it is not the signature vibration that determines that attraction. The signature vibration of all beings, again, perhaps you can say, in the ultimate sense, are equally attracted. It is the superficial, the overlaying layer of vibration that is determined and changed and alterable, mutable through your actions.
So can you say something? How would you handle the situation when the other person is actually a nice person and everyone likes him or her, but somehow you don't get along with that person? How would you handle that situation?
Well, it is not something that occurs upon our planet. But in extrapolating from your point of view, I would simply ask myself, in very honest terms, what must I believe to not be creating complete unconditional love for this individual? What are they doing? What are they reflecting to me? What about them bothers me? For I know that only can it bother me if I match it within my own consciousness on some level. So thereby very often those individuals, once you are to the point of acting like a complete creator, are some of the strongest facilitators and strongest opportunities to flush up some of the more core limiting beliefs. Now, you may find simply after doing so that you have nothing in common with that individual and simply go on your merry way. But it will not be an exclusionary idea. And you will at least understand what in your belief system provides the effect that you are calling the lack of attraction. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Oh.
Thank you for that. And two other brief questions. One is, I know everybody on your planet communicates tele-empathically. If you did play chess, would you be able to play chess? If you know what I mean.
One moment. Ace.
Then you can control what you want to broadcast and what you don't.
Explain.
In order to play chess, you have plans. You have to make plans ahead. And if you can read each other's minds, you won't be able to play chess.
Ah, I understand. Understand that though we, through choice and growth and preference and expansion, have the ability in that sense to know the thoughts of someone else, or more literally create the same thoughts by being similar to their vibration, we also have the ability to explore any gradient of any other idea. So we can shield in that sense our thoughts from others, or in that sense choose not to receive the thoughts of someone. So for a particular intended purpose, we can simply assume that orientation and have some fun. It is not in general something that we would do, however, for our games in general will be such whereby both teams will play toward a common goal and everyone wins.
And last question. Do you have lines on your palms?
Not in the way that you mean. Our skin in that sense is perhaps a bit more pliable in that way.
And as far as
You may perceive in certain positions this to be so.
As far as you know, our lines do mean something?
Well, that is quite arbitrary. There are certain ideas which are extrapolated and bought into, but ultimately it is all the product of belief system. If someone tells you your lifeline is short, you do not believe that, you will live a long life. It is not that it truly determines it, but only to the degree that you buy into, and then therefore, through expectation and belief, act as though that is so, and therefore it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Thank you very much.
And you will also notice, interestingly enough, that these lines, which are generally considered unchangeable, do change. Change in length, change in structure, change in character. Shutting. Yes. And to you. Is your planet completely populated by females?
Out of this group, there's 2 males out of what, about 25
Whoa.
females?
Just having some fun.
At the last interaction that I was at, I was asking you about my trips to the Yucatan,
Nice.
and you were suggesting a something along the lines of a co-teacher. And I would like to ask more about that.
Well, all right.
Specifically, were you...
Now, before you proceed, simply for the purposes of those involved, a brief explanation. This individual is involved in what you would call setting up tours to what you would call sacred sites, and is interested in teaching in these tours, and has felt the need for some other teachers, so we had discussed the possibility of co-teaching. Do proceed.
Were you suggesting working with you and Andrew?
Well, there was no particular, shall I say, focus of the suggestion other than, again, factoring in, since that is one of the main things that we discuss, your excitement. So whatever expression you are excited about tells you that that is your particular focus. Does that excite you?
I think it would be fascinating.
Well, that's a given. And no matter who you choose, it will.
I think it would be so interesting because I'd really like to discern the real history. I have this bug about the real history of humanity and how they developed their various forms of expression, why they think as they do, and then probably more specifically their spiritual explorations. And so the thought of interpreting, and reclaiming some of this knowledge.
For what reason, however? What will you do when this knowledge is upon you? How can you ground any knowledge into the now moment and use it in the now life?
I think that's a good question.
Oh, thank you.
That the idea is to bring, for example, the Mayas. One of the central ideas is their place or relationship to the cosmos, and that everything is this growing and interactive part of the cosmos. And so finding, I guess, ways to bring that more into our current society and interests me.
All right. You perhaps will understand this on some level. But the only time that ever exists, ever has existed, and ever will exist is right now. In any now moment that you express, there are an infinite number of probable pasts and an infinite number of probable futures. Now, many of you can fathom the idea of an infinite number of probable futures, for you feel it has not happened yet. In the universal sense, it is all happening right now, including all the pasts. What you sometimes have difficulty with is understanding that there are an infinite number of probable pasts. When you change who you are in the moment, when you change your vibration in the way that we have discussed in the moment, obviously, if it is a shift from the momentum you have been creating, you create a different probable future, for you have shifted who you are right now. But again, what is not always completely understood is that you also shift very often, just slightly, minutely, the past as well. For it would have taken a slightly different past for you to be the you that you are now that you have changed. So what I am sharing is, ultimately speaking, and unsettling as this may seem, there is no the history. For if there were one person experiencing one event, then perhaps in one sense there could seem to be a history. But because there are many people experiencing one event, you call that event an objective event, but as each person perceives it, it becomes subjective. And it can mean a completely different thing, sometimes opposite, same event, to the subjective viewers. Therefore, each one of them will render their idea of what occurred, and their idea of what occurred is what occurred for them. The person who saw a completely different interpretation, it would be inaccurate to say they were wrong. It is what occurred for them. Same seeming event, different interpretations, both are completely correct from their point of views. So in trying to nail down one discrete objective history, you run into, shall we say, the barrier, so to speak, that it was in that sense interpreted by many, many different subjective individuals. So perhaps what it will behoove you to shift your focus toward is finding the history that is representative of who you are. And you will find that is all that really matters to you anyway. For history will only have the effect on you that you believe it to have. If you believe, well, in history, all people were a particular way, and you act that way and get that same effect, you have used that history to get that same effect. If you shift the emphasis, you can get a completely different effect in the now and in the future. So allow your history to become evident. And in expressing that history through your subjective sureness, you will attract the other individuals, which that history is also the history for. In trying to nail down one objective history, again, you are attempting in that sense to nail down something that is arbitrary and make it definitive. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So that mechanism perhaps will allow you to simply allow yourself to attract the history that enables you to be the most preferred you can be right now. And you need not, in that sense, in understanding that someone else will have a different history, say, well, you're wrong. You can simply interact with the individuals and will generally find yourself attracted to the individuals who share, quote unquote, share that same, quote unquote, same history. So your job has just become easier.
Yeah, it feels, I feel much more relaxed about the whole thing.
Do you understand fundamentally what I am saying? Again, it is unsettling to some that there is not one history. But again, once you have more than one person perceiving it, you have different subjective interpretations.
It reminds me of an incident that happened at one of the sites in the Yucatan called Uxmal. When I was there a few years ago with a large group of people, myself and another woman were perceiving in this series of rooms the initiations that had taken place there, and it was quite interesting and beautiful, and it involved the opening of different of our chakras or centers.
Now, before you proceed,
Okay.
to use this as an illustration, that is one history, one real history. Not the only one, not one that replaces any other one, but a valid, distinct, and true history. So proceed.
There's another guy there who sort of, well, got psychically that things, that it wasn't this beautiful center, that actually it was a place where they raped children and were really brutal and ugly soldiers.
Now, the history that you are sharing is more in tandem with our particular expression of the history. The history that he was sharing was completely the history, however, again, his history. And was also, again, quite relevant to his own life experience in what you call childhood. Therefore, he will see through the perceptive filter or glasses of his expectations, of his understandings, of his personal history. And technically speaking, he is correct as well. Though, again, speaking of commonality, if we were to say, again, and this is also arbitrary, that there is the earth that I, Elan, am speaking to you, Darlene, on right now, our understanding of the co-created history of this particular stream would be more in line with what you have perceived. If this makes any sense and is translating at all.
It's translating well. And I think I'm looking around, I think it's translating for other people as well. The idea, yeah, somebody would like to ask something along those lines.
Oh, all right. And thank you for the segue. Do proceed.
Is it possible that they were seeing events from different times?
Well, yes, or from different dimensions or from different universal realities. For as you perceive there is one earth, that is merely a perception. There are an infinite number of earths, what you would call parallel lives or Earths very similar to your own Earth, again, separated by fine bandwidths of frequency and choice, but parallel in that they are similar. Perhaps, again, technically speaking, were you to walk down the road, find a fork, and take a right, the you that took the left creates another branching of a reality altogether. But the idea is that they all exist and overlap. And your perception will be determined by your vibration in the now moment. Was there something you are specifically seeking?
No, that's it. Thank you. Back to you.
And we thank you as well. Are you through?
I would like to ask something on the same general topic, but it's more when I was asking the questions of you, I was trying to think of what you were telling us about. We have choices in any given moment. We have a series of choices, and we trust in the timing. Maybe at a certain point in so-called quote time, we have 5 choices. Maybe it's not the ultimate, or like in my case, maybe it's not in this moment. I would love to be in Mexico, and I would love to be in the pyramids and things, and maybe I don't have the money for that right now.
Well, if you say so. And if you insist the only way that your abundance could provide that for you is money, then perhaps it is accurate in the framework. But understand, abundance is simply the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it, and need not be confined and rigidized to only coming in one form. Now, you can get it in one specific form, but the more that form is not relevant to this moment, the more time or space and time that you create from here to there to get there. But the more that you are willing to be open and simply attract an immediate or more immediate methodology that would simply allow you to do the complete same thing, but not be rigidized to only accepting it through the means of money, the more you actually increase your likelihood of more immediately attracting that symbol. And again, paradoxically, if something is not available in a given moment that you are excited about, and you maintain it as a clear intention, but push it out of the way so you can see what is right in front of you, and choose from those options through your excitement, acting on it with integrity, even though what's in the moment may seem to have nothing to do with going to Mexico, it actually does. And the doing of that thing and the result from the doing of that thing will lead you to the next thing, which again, at some point down the line, will hook directly up with going to Mexico far sooner than you imagined possible. So it is simply a matter of your definitions and your willingness to allow your reality rather than attempt to force and conform it, which is not truly the mechanism of creatorhood. Force and control is the mechanism of feeling helpless that you need in that way to control your reality to feel powerful. Allowance is the complete allowing of the flow of the power that you already have.
How does this style of thinking come into, in order to make these tours, there's a lot of planning. You have to make a brochure, there's advertising. Once you get the brochures, you have to print them, you have to fold them, you have to stuff envelopes, etc.
Now, you are simply listing your own beliefs and rules to me, but do proceed.
Well, that I'm trying. Okay, I would like to see that in maybe a different context. I don't think that's very much fun.
Are you excited about the folding? Yes or no?
Particularly.
All right. Do you assume no one upon your planet is? The point is that there are people who actually like to fold or are excited about the idea of being paid to do so. And the point is, you get to decide which of the work you will do and which of the work, if it does not excite you, you will put out and attract others to do so in whatever way is available to do so. As an example.
That's good. So it's really how I'm looking at it.
Well, always, yes. Always and always, yes.
Thank you for this moment. I'd like to let that gurgle
All right, gurgle, all right. But thank yourself, for you have done it all and simply allowed me to function as a reflection. I thank you for the honor. Shutting.
Elan,
Ace.
one male.
Male, all right.
I wanted to ask about the significance or lack of our first name. Okay, as to whether that.
Lack of?
No, well, I mean, the significance or lack of significance of your first name. My first name is Cecil.
All right. What does that mean to you, and what does it mean societally speaking?
Well, the nickname that I prefer is Cease, and I spell that in order to be simple and straightforward. I spell it C-E-A-S-E.
All right.
Now, it's been told to me recently that, oh gosh, cease means stop, cease and desist. There's a certain negative connotation to the word.
Well, not necessarily. If you are ceasing, shall I say, behavior or actions that you no longer prefer, it can be quite positive. Simply depends what you are ceasing. What you have ceased to do is settle for less. Sell yourself out. Assist others at the cost of yourself. And again, you have enough power to serve everyone at the same time. So simply present it in that way.
So ceasing or stopping can be a positive idea if it applies to the right things. It's been suggested, well, gee, why don't you use your middle name, John, or your initials, CJ, and maybe the universe would look on you with more favor, and maybe other people would be more impressed rather than have a negative name like Cease.
Well, again, it is a neutral name that one particular individual obviously had a negative interpretation of. But only then does that give you the opportunity to agree, well, yes, perhaps my name that I call myself is negative, or no. I am simply ceasing to sell myself out. I am ceasing to do the things which are no longer representative of who I am. You can too.
So are you saying that it's my...
Do you like the name?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it.
I did not ask you if you had a problem with it. I asked you if you like it.
It's a little bit like being a boy named Sue, okay? and it's a little bit of a challenge. And because it had meaning to my parents, I've always stuck with the name, even though it's not an easy name to live with, because it's not a common, well-accepted name that everybody can spell and pronounce and so forth. But it's never bothered me, but it's been brought up, well, gee, why don't you change your name into something more positive?
All right. What do you wish to change it to? What is more representative, or in this moment, representative of who you choose to be?
I don't care to change it.
All right. Then are you willing then to again plug in or insert a meaning that will serve you?
Well, I guess one thing I like about it is that it always requires a little conversation, and I enjoy conversation with people, even if it's how in the world do you pronounce your name? How do you spell it? What's it mean? Where'd you get a name like that?
Well, again, now you have the opportunity to be a bit more metaphysical about it and explain what exactly it is that you are now ceasing to do.
Okay.
So therefore, still a conversation.
So it's
piece.
still up to my interpretation. Since all things are neutral, as you told us many times, it's neutral, and so I can make it positive, or I can feel negative about it if that's my choice. But it's my choice, not somebody else's choice. And therefore, the universe isn't looking on me in disfavor because I've got such a name.
Well, absolutely not. The universe will only mimic how you look at yourself. You will get the effect of how you look at yourself. The universe, if you wish to ascribe it again as an outside entity, is non-conditional, completely non-judgmental, unconditionally loving. What you call God renders no judgment. The God you hear about that renders judgment is the reflection of mankind's attitudes within all that is, creating God in man's and woman's image, not the other way around. God, again, or all that is unconditionally loving, has absolutely no conditions upon its complete willingness to allow you to be completely who you are and love you for being that you. Where the judgment comes in, and again, the disfavor, to utilize your own terminology, is your own self and your own standards.
I think probably our culture is such and conditioned such that they look upon a name, and in my particular name, generally, if you took a vote, they would think it's more negative than positive.
Well, may I ask a question?
Okay.
Are you who you are no matter what, or can you be voted out of who you are?
Well, a rose is a rose, I've heard.
Well, perhaps, but that does not answer my question. The question is, first of all, the vote that you are speaking of from our perception may not exactly be that accurate, but your perception that most people would find it negative is what is of interest to us.
Well, I really don't give a damn how they see the name negative or positive. I feel okay with it.
Oh, that is the main point. And again, explaining and allowing one who might view it as negative to use it as an opportunity to explain what is positive about it also allows individuals to see that all symbols contain both potentials for positive and for negative interpretation. All, including that.
Great. You've helped me a great deal. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for not ceasing to be ceased.
Right.
Shutting.
Elan,
Hey, female.
I have a question about domestic cats. How do they experience their reality, and how do they experience the people they live with?
They experience their reality very much in the now with very little distinction of what has just passed and what is to come. So therefore, I am in a room. I am walking up steps. I am in this room. It is not, I am in a room, I am walking up steps and have just left that room. I am in this room, I have just left that room and walked up steps and so on and so forth. It is simply, here I am. What's here? Here I am. What's here? Car comes along, almost hits it, runs away down the road, and 3 seconds later is right where it is now with no knowledge that the car almost just hit it.
But what about people that they live with? I mean, is there no continuity?
Well, there is continuity. Yes, there is familiarity, but there is a complete sense of willingness to approach an individual in a fresh, as if a new mode. You will notice, though there may be the perception for individuals do this, that they may seem to hold a grudge, that it will not last very long. And again, the grudge is more of a reflection of the person generally holding a grudge on themselves.
Well, I generally see them more as, I have 3 cats, and they are very affectionate to me. So is that just their general nature? And
well, again, it is not that you beat them and they are affectionate to you. They are reflective consciousness. All animal consciousness is reflections within your own consciousness. Distinct entities in one point of view, but reflections of who you are from your point of view.
can I ask one more question?
You can ask.
Declawing. How do cats view it? I'm faced with that decision with a kitten.
The idea is that in general, you will find them to quote unquote utilize your own terminology, get used to the idea, but it will then provide certain limitations in what they are quote unquote generally able to do. So it is a decision, but understand that they still live happy lives with no claws. They do not, again, to continue the idea, dwell on it for very long.
Is there a way to train them to not destroy furniture so it doesn't have to be done?
Thanks.
How? Can you help me out?
Well, by simply being very mindful and perhaps shepherding, intervening when they do so very consistently, and you will find them to get the idea over time. Also providing, again, this is quite mundane and colloquial on one level, a scratching post or some other idea that allows them to have that natural act without it being at the detriment of something else.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We do not in that sense have couches or cats in quite the way that you do, but we understand the reference. At this timing, we will pause for a short break of approximately 10 to 15 of your minutes of counting and resume contact at that time. All right, I'll say, continue shooting. Ace.
You were saying before what powerful creators we are.
Ace.
Could I create something like say I wanted to be this incredible singer. I mean,
Well, first of all, perhaps a credible singer would be a more positive word. But the idea is if you are attracted to that symbol to the point where you are excited about it, that excitement in and of itself tells you that that thing is available to you. Now, when you assume that it is not and have the belief that it is not and act that way, you get the evidence of that idea. But that evidence is the result of the actions, again, according to the belief. So if you truly understand that there is nothing extra in creation, that all that is, and you do not create to tease yourself, and understand that that excitement is a direct indication that it is available, your actions will become different. And you will, in that sense, perhaps assess your level of ability and then begin to increase that level of ability through choice and preference by attracting whatever symbol will allow you to begin to expand on that ability. So it is completely doable, as you say.
thank you.
Oh, thank you. Is that all?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shut it. Ace. And to you. Good day.
When you were speaking about time, why as human beings do we need time as a classroom?
Well, in a sense,
Linear.
it is not necessarily a classroom, but a statement. Part and parcel of the way that you are choosing to relate to yourself. And the idea is basically this. As you are more integrated and things are not so much separated from you, your experience and creation of time will seem to decrease. You create less time. Time, quote unquote, flies by. But as you explore separation and seeing things as if separate from you and creating literally space between the portions of yourself, you then necessitate the creation of more time to traverse that space, to explore all the different separations. So as you act in a separative way, you in that sense create more time, which in that sense is perceived by you as time dragging by. But as you express who you are and in that sense begin to express integration and create less space and therefore less need for time to traverse that space, you create less space. And again, the apparency or the perception is that time is flying by. As we have shared, when you are having fun, you are being who you truly wish to be. Therefore, literally creating less time. And if you experience what you perceive to be 15 minutes and look at the clock and 2 hours have passed, only has your physical body aged the 15 minutes. You have created time in a different flow in comparison with the agreed upon creation of time flow in your reality. Not literally simply missed some of the time. You literally created less of it, and therefore your body experienced only the amount of time that your consciousness created. You need not look at it as a trap or a classroom, but simply an expression, a parameter that you are choosing to explore through. And again, part and parcel of the idea of the exploration of time is the exploration of unfoldment along the timeline, what you refer to as timing. And there are advantages, complete unique advantages in the timing when you look at it that way. But when you forsake the timing and in general are not allowing yourself to remain focused in what is available, then you create more time. So therefore it is quite up to you. Does that make sense, however?
I think I need time to digest that.
Well, you create time to digest it, and that is the point. However, in this particular instance, the process that you will create of digesting it will open many doors within you. For it again puts it back into your lap that you literally created. That time is a statement, is a creation, and is created by you, the flow of which is determined by your willingness to again be integrative, true to yourself, expressing who you are, or separative, running around hiding from yourself, hiding different portions from yourself, denying and putting things in your subconscious closet, once again, the more separations through denial that you create, the more time, obviously, that you need to create to address all these separations, and so on and so forth. Does that make more sense?
Yes.
So therefore, be yourself. Choose in any given moment from whatever is available the thing that excites you the most that you can act on with integrity. You will create the least amount of time necessary to be who you are, and things will continuously seem to be forthcoming, and things will seemingly continuously reflect preference rather than lack of preference. And again, if you are being who you are, the result is creating less time. If you are being completely mindful of what everyone else says you should be or should do, you create more time to look at that. Ace, very.
I have another question on reincarnation.
All right. Time's up. Do proceed. Just having some fun.
Is reincarnation linear? And do you, when a person visits let's just say for example, another country or place that is foreign, is that a desire to go back to a place where one has?
Well, many times it will establish a connection, and your attraction to a place will mean that what you are doing in that life is relevant to what you are exploring in this life. So perhaps, yes, many times. What you are attracted to in your imagination and eras of history that appeal to you generally do so, for you have led lives in those periods that are, again, relevant to the exploration that you are leading now. But in terms of the linearity of reincarnation, this is, again, somewhat of an arbitrary question. From the viewpoint of your physical self, it is linear. You had lives before, are living now, during, and after will live other lives. From that point of view, it would seem to be linear. But from the point of view of what you call your oversoul or higher self, everything is simultaneous. There is no time. It is all occurring right now. So from that point of view, you would not call it reincarnation, implying a linear timeline, but would call it multiple simultaneous incarnations. For again, from that perspective, it is all going on at the same time. So therefore, when you tap into, quote unquote, a past life, from your perspective, you may seem to be tapping into something that happened. But from the perspective of your higher self, oversoul, or total consciousness, you are actually having a bleed through from something else which is happening right now at the same time. So again, perhaps it is a confusing answer, but yes and no, depending upon the viewpoint.
Thank you. That explains a lot.
Oh, all right. Thank you for asking. Is that all?
That is all.
Oh, thank you. Sharing.
Come on.
Ace, female, then male.
I just wanted to ask a couple questions about your society
All right.
with children. Are they born at home?
It will depend upon the timing. Perhaps not always. We are a bit more spontaneous about it and create what you would call the birthing process with absolutely no semblance of pain. For the idea is there is a direct and complete understanding and conscious agreement with the soul about to be born prior to conception, prior to birth. We are far more connected with each other in this way. So therefore, the whole expression is different, and we do not sit around and limit our activities when the birth is imminent, as you say. We simply go about our business, and we'll find ourselves in exactly the perfect place for that particular expression.
Okay, so it's not in a hospital or anything.
Oh, no. We do not have what you would call hospitals, or even what you would call doctors, for that matter.
Right.
For we no longer express the type of reality whereby we would create the need to give ourselves a blatant message that you call dis-ease. Dis-ease is simply you delivering yourself a message that you have refused to look at. Since again, we are in full acknowledgement, this simply does not exist any longer in our society.
When we had talked, you had said that the children there are the children of all the parents, and the parents are the parents of all the children.
Well, that is the spirit. That is the attitude. There is not the possessive kind of idea. There is acknowledgement of the physiological parents, for again, there was the purposefulness in choosing those particular parents. However, it is far looser in terms of that all adults are quote unquote able to be responding or response able to all children and vice versa. So there is a very community-oriented feeling, but still, again, and perhaps this will only translate through your language in a certain way, but a special, perhaps, kind of closeness to the physiological parents.
So the child,
Again, this is not completely accurate. There are limitations in your language. For there is, at the same time that you would perceive to be something special, still a complete equality, and you have no word for this.
so the child is raised with the physiological parents to a certain age, or
Well, not necessarily. The child will find themselves at the age of 3 years to find themselves attracted to whatever individuals will enhance and enable them to enhance their own exploration. Whatever they are excited about, they will immediately draw the individuals that will assist them in enhancing their knowledge and understanding of them. Perhaps you can say that there is a closer tie prior to the age of 3 to the physiological parents.
do the mothers nurse their infants, or do you eat?
There is the vestigial remnant of that symbol, but not so much anymore. There is more of now of an energy exchange, for as you, as a society, are beginning to cross the threshold from a third dimension, third density reality, which is physical, to a fourth density reality, which is still physical, but more expanded expression. We are, in that sense, beginning to explore fifth density, which would be non-physical. And when you are, quote unquote, at the end of fourth, one of the reflections that occurs is you begin to transform a reliance on any outer symbol. So we are at that junction where these things are still possible to explore, but they are less and less engaged upon as we begin to approach our non-physical beingness. In our history, yes.
Another thing, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was I read that book, Communication, and it scared the shit out of
Do you mean communion?
Communion,
Oh.
yes. Sorry.
That book serves a particular function, and the function that it serves is allowing individuals to look at that fear without having to attract that interaction to do so. So you can begin to allow that fear once again. Instead of overwhelm you, allow that fear to serve you. What must I believe to be fearing that? Now also understand that the individual who wrote that book, in experiencing what he experienced, whether it be physical or allegorical, was in fear, was in victim mode. So therefore his rendition is his interpretation through his own fear that something was happening to him. And this is in general the people that speak the loudest and the individuals that your society hear about that interact with these beings. However, there are many individuals who have filed or interpreted these interactions since early childhood in a very private, very special, very perhaps exalted mode. And they are quite comfortable with the interactions. Same exact interactions, except their understanding and their willingness to acknowledge ideas to themselves, have them experience it in a completely different way, in a positive way. You do not generally, again, hear from many of these individuals, for they feel it to be a very special and private part of who they are. You will, however, begin to hear about more and more of them that do interpret it in a positive way to begin to provide an alternate reflection. However, now you can use whatever fear you have to see what you must believe in those circumstances. These individuals are merely only ever detained and never truly abducted in the truest form of that word. Abduction in that sense would generally imply not returning them.
I think it just goes into my own history of incest with having things inserted and things done against my will.
Well, the difference, and again, I will point out to you that none fundamentally none of these interactions take place against the ultimate will of the higher self of the individuals involved. And on the higher self level, there is agreement to co-create that reality. For nothing can happen to you without, on some level, your agreement or consent. When you begin to look at it as an exploration and glean what you can from it, and then use the information and act according to preference, it becomes a positive experience, at least conceptually. When you say, oh, poor me, why is this happening to me, why does it always happen to me, you, with the same exact circumstance, create that negative effect. But even in, again, your aforementioned own personal example, on some level, and I am not saying this in the form of blame at all, but on some level, you chose to have the strength to experience that so that you could understand certain things about yourself, about human nature, about physical reality, about perpetratorhood, about victimhood, that when you begin to get down to the business of gleaning how it has served you, will make you the person that you say you prefer to be.
Yeah.
Or a person's denial of their choice in the matter, whether it was conscious or unconscious, again, removes your ability to use the symbol and simply makes you a victim by your own hand. So as you look at that issue and perhaps reread that book, it will have a different impact. And you will begin to be advising perhaps the author in other ways that he can look at it. Does this address what you are asking?
Yes.
All right. Is that all?
And no, the other thing I wanted to ask you was when we had the interaction Wednesday night, I had gone in, and one of the things that I knew I wanted to do was to somehow just be together for a span of time, whatever. I don't understand it, and you had suggested for me to hold my hands, and I realized when I was listening to the tape playing back how I completely went against, or not went against, but just completely not acknowledged what I was being drawn to do. So what I want to ask you is, sometime in a meditation, can I call you and be there, and for whatever reason, because I still don't understand it, but I'm trusting it.
What is the question?
Can I call on you in if I'm in a meditation and have your presence there or whatever?
Oh, absolutely. We have said that you always can. But our presence will not tell you, you should do this, you should do that, or say, why did you do that? And when you hear that, that is your own voice added into the pot, so to speak.
Right.
So therefore, yes. Again, when we say our stream is available, there are no conditions upon your accessing of it. However, it will always still be up to your sense of discernment to understand what is actually us. And again, as a guideline, anything that we say will always be completely self-empowering. We'll never criticize or judge anything that you have done. And although we may provide alternatives, we'll never say, here is something better than what you are doing. Simply, here is an alternative. What you are doing is perfectly valid and obviously giving you the results of what you are doing with a perfect 100% reflection, but perhaps you may wish to look at this as well. That is the style that we communicate in. We never say, you dummy, why did you do that? It is not our style. Nor do we ever think of you as dummies. All right?
Yeah.
And we thank you as well. Male.
Okay. I want to ask you about spirituality, because it's something, religion has been hard for me, I guess. I tend to look at it in a negative way.
There are built-in hypocrisies to much of it, for it purports on the one hand to be the vehicle through which you will re-establish your connection with God and express that connection through the love of all beings. But on the other hand, there is the built-in supposition that each religion is the only way and that all the other methods of connecting, so to speak, don't have the right to exist. So that hypocrisy will hang many of you up now that you are beginning to openly explore your consciousness rather than simply following along like sheep.
So I feel it's when I try to make a conscious contact with all that is or God, is that just opening up myself, or is that letting all that is in more to make me feel this positive energy?
Oh, good question. Now understand, first of all, one of the quote-unquote perhaps misunderstandings built into some of your religious ideas is that you need something to reestablish your connection with God. For that idea in and of itself presupposes, and is a belief which you then act like and get the effect of, that you can be separated from God. And the idea is, once again, that you are an I, spelled E-Y-E, as well as capital I, an I of God itself. You aren't separated and do not need to reestablish any connection. Simply acknowledge the connection you already have and can never lose. You would simply cease to exist, which is impossible were you not an expression of all that is. So the idea is, yes, you can connect with that and feel that, but not, again, connect something outside. It is simply expressing the all that isness, expressing the Godness that you already are through yourself. And again, that expression is completely unconditionally loving. And in fact does not say, this is the only way, but says, here is a way, here is a way, here is a way. They are all valid. The truth, the ultimate truth, is composed of all truths. And if you leave but one of those truths out, there is not a complete and ultimate truth. It is the complete truth minus one truth. But since the truth is composed of all truths, it is a matter of you choosing which truth is attractive to you, which truth is representative of who you are, and then allowing everyone else to have their own truth just as well. If you do not agree with their truth, it is all right for them to still have it, but you need not condone it by simply acting according to your own truth. You condone someone else's truth when you act the same way. Well, I'll show them exactly how it feels when you treat people that way by treating them the exact way, and then they can see what it feels like. That attitude, which actually winds up having you treat them the same way, act the same way as them, is actually a form of condoning what they do. Your willingness to say, all right, they are acting this way. It is all right. It is their exploration, but I do not choose or condone this. I will act the way that I act, and then showing them the different way to act is of service to them while validating their truth rather than invalidating it. If you validate someone's truth, they will listen to you in general. If you invalidate their truth, they put up a defense and will not listen to any other truth. So the idea is that you establish what your truth is, be that truth, feel that truth, feel the all that isness throughout you, and also be willing to validate someone else's reality. And again, if it is something negative, without condoning it by acting the same way. Does that make sense?
Yes. Also, that when you become more in touch with yourself, I use the term, I guess, awaken to the fact of your own consciousness and of the fact of God or all that is. Do you feel that other people will feel this by your vibrations and, feel your positive feelings? If you're letting yourself feel them, do you think other people will feel that also?
In general, yes. But the point is, if you are truly doing this, you will not worry about that, and it will simply be automatic. Again, this is where excitement enters into it. The reason that you, and anyone for that matter, is excited about something is that is your soul screaming to you in no uncertain terms, this is most me. Now, we speak about excitement with integrity, which takes into consideration that you do have enough power to create anything that you wish without harming yourself or someone else. But that excitement is not extraneous. It is not superfluous. It is purposeful. It is, perhaps you can say, the all that isness within you knocking on the door saying, well, of the 5 things before you, I am very excited about this thing. That is what's telling you that thing is most representative of who you are. And beginning to function through your excitement, act on that excitement with integrity, and then create a result which is exciting, creates the vibration of excitement in your life. And in fact, when individuals ask, what is my purpose in life? That is the answer. Whatever excites you, both overall and in any given moment, is your purpose. When you create this new momentum according to your excitement, it is quite contagious, quite infectious. Individuals see that it is actually possible to live a life of excitement, and here is the example. That is a very strong beacon, a very strong example, and will then usually, yes, generate the recognition in them that here is a person who really knows who they are and who expresses the unconditional love of all that is through them. Is that too simple?
No, that's sounds pretty perfect to me.
Well, the idea is that it is that simple if you allow it to be, but you can also make it as complex as it will take for you to convince yourself that it will work.
Yeah, that's the simplicity is almost kind of, for me, difficult. But one other thing,
Well, getting excited about the excitement itself is perhaps a place to begin. For most, if not all, individuals are excited about the concept that your excitement could actually be your purpose in life. And then individuals, when beginning to entertain this notion and say, well, I'll give it a shot, I'll act on this thing that excites me with my integrity, are always so amazed that the result is a completely wonderful happening in their life. But this is how simple it is. And as more individuals do so, again, they show people that this is possible. For many individuals have the conception, well, it's impossible to be happy, for I've never found anyone who is. Now, also understand that when you say that, you yourself are being the vibration of someone who is unhappy and will then generally only attract from what is available reflections of other individuals of like exploration. But there are, shall I say, plenty of individuals out there who are actually happy. And when you make the decision to function through your excitement and create that happiness within yourself, they will seem to come out of the woodwork.
so I believe in wondering if changing your surroundings. I have a friend that he was talking to me about. He wants to change himself by changing his surroundings, and I was wondering if you believe also, which it seems that you have to start with yourself, because that's the only thing you really have control. You have control of yourself and how you react.
Ultimately, when you change yourself, everything else seems to change. But individuals can make the decision to change and utilize that particular idea as a representation of that decision, perhaps again putting themselves in circumstances that don't have the momentum of the circumstances in one place. If the change and decision has actually first been made internally, then it is possible to have the external expression. But if it is a form of running from your reality, and bringing with you the negative notions, they will appear in the new reality as well. So fundamentally, it does begin within, but externally can be an expression of an internal decision. So it will simply depend upon the clarity of that individual. And again, the idea of whether he's simply going towards something that is more representative of who he or she is, or is running from something else. Quite a different orientation, though the action may look the same.
Thank you.
Oh, thank him and you.
Elan.
Ace.
Male.
All right. Thank you. Bold one.
Do you know things about our planet through communication with us or other humans, or from another means?
Well, both.
Okay.
There is created within the mentality of any channel that we come through certain beliefs that we, in that sense, to put it colloquially, must work around. And a very common belief of a channel is that we can only draw from what the channel has accumulated in vocabulary. So in general, we will express that our vocabulary is limited to the vocabulary of the channel. However, we have observed your planet not only through this means, but also through other means. So we have both accesses of information. Is there something specific you are seeking?
Have you ever visited our planet, or has anyone else ever visited our planet or been here?
Are you talking about of extraterrestrial origin?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Now, we personally have not, perhaps you can say, set foot upon your planet, though we have done flybys. Perhaps you can say that were witnessed by many, many individuals. However, there are at least two distinct races of other beings, one that does not appear very humanish, though is somewhat humanish, and one that is almost entirely indiscernible from humans that are physically landing upon your planet. Yes.
Are we somewhat of a human experiment? Like we're
No.
sort of seeds dropped here?
Well, in one sense of the word, but nobody's experiment, no. Because you as a consciousness are part of the designing of the experiment itself. You are simply exploring your own exploration. You are nobody's experiment. Shutting.
Don,
Ice.
my brother has asked me to ask you what in the world is happening to him.
Well, perhaps part of the situation that he is creating is asking everyone else. Now, we have discussed this, so I will keep it brief. Doing what excites you the most is only half, or perhaps in many cases, less than half of what we are discussing. Doing what excites you the most with integrity is the entire picture. Enough power to do what you wish to do without harming yourself or someone else, in full recognition that everything is all one thing, one integrated whole. Integrity as in integration, not as in moral standards, which are arbitrary and ever-changing. If you factor out the integrity for any reason, using any rationalization, you will get certain effects. And what we are perceived he is asking are the effects of that. Now, we are not in any way blaming or chastising him, simply answering in the most direct way that we can find possible.
He believes he's acting in accordance with messages he's getting from somewhere, and yet it's rather obvious that the result is that he's going through one crisis every day, at least it seems to me.
Any source that he is attributing that information comes from is only as good as the effects that that source creates. And if it is, again, the urging of the excitement without the integrity, it is simply not a source that we would suggest listening to. It is not that because a source is there, you must listen. Obviously, you have many different television channels. It is where you tune the dial that your attention falls. It would be, in a sense, ridiculous and inaccurate to say, if you turn to one channel, all the rest of the channels aren't there. They are. You are simply tuning to that particular station. He is tuning to a particular station. If he does not like the effect that he is getting, simply use his sense of discernment as the dial.
He's sure getting a lot of feedback from his behavior that tells him he's listening to a lousy station.
All right, but he is the only one that can determine. And again, it is not a lousy station. It is a perfect reflection of a negative station. Perfect. But the idea is, what is it he wishes to create? What is it he wishes to express? Does he wish to express integrity? Does he wish to experience integrity? My particular understanding is that the answer is yes. And you can only experience something if that is what you are willing to put out. So simply review your own or his own idea of what integrity is, and always factor that in. And if something is very exciting and very accessible, but he knows that acting upon it will not be within his full integrity, then that is not one of the choices for the new discerning him that is on the more, shall I say, positive channel.
He thinks what he's doing is treating people very well. I disagree with him, but the results...
Well, the idea is this. In general, due to the feedback that you create in your society, if you are treating individuals well, they will tell you so. If you are willing to be open, if individuals are telling you, I am not getting that from you, then that is his opportunity to assess and then either decide to continue to treat people that way or not. But part of the feedback of integrity will be the feedback from the individuals. And if someone is saying, I feel harmed by you, even though technically they create their own version of it, the point is that he is not expressing his power to the degree where it is not harming himself or someone else.
I see him trying to buy love, affection, and loyalty through materialistic gifts.
Well, that will only give a temporary materialistic effect.
You give me some good feedback. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, and thank him. Shutting. Us, female, then you.
Oh, greetings.
And to you.
I've been having what I think is energy that comes in forms of like blue dots every once in a while when I'm relaxed. And what I'm asking is, I guess, is that what this is? A positive? I perceive it as a positive energy, maybe wanting to communicate.
Well, from the sound of your voice, so to speak, there is also other connotations of how you are interpreting it. Now, my particular understanding, again, is as you expand your consciousness, your physical senses begin to be more sensitive to things which were not generally in the range of your perception. For expansion means expansion in the range of perception as well. So if you are simply willing to enjoy the light show from that perspective, you will get a positive result. It is where you judge it that you get the negative result. It is the judgment itself. Do you wish for them to cease?
No.
All right. Then have a good time.
Okay.
Is that all?
I think so. Thank
All right. Over there. Shutting.
Elan,
Yes.
I'm confused about something. You were talking
All
about
right. How exciting. Co-fusion is simply the process of redefining yourself, pulling pieces apart, co-fusing, fusing them back together with a new coherency to fall into step with the new you. Very exciting. Do proceed.
you're talking about signature vibrations.
Ice.
That's like a thumbprint.
Well, in a sense.
Everyone's is totally
A
different.
soul print.
Take the scenario that you're very attracted to another human being in your life, and there are some perceived negatives that go along with that, with this person, and you just keep interacting. Is that, what is that? Is that your signature? Is that your...
Well, in general, again, it is the covering. And again, I remind you that this is arbitrary and an analogy for explanation. It is not mechanically precise, but it is more the overall mutable or changeable aspect of your vibration that is what individuals see and are the result of your actions, and therefore establish the air, perhaps you can say, that you carry about you.
I see. So, but as, say you have an interaction for years with this person, and then you change, and then this person change. I mean, it's like in reincarnation. If you were living with this person in other lives. I guess I'm very confused.
The idea is this. You will attract whatever it is that is a reflection of what you are exploring. You have all lived thousands of past lives, not just a handful. The reason only a handful stand out is because you are only exploring seemingly a finite number of issues in this life, and only will the lives whereby similar things were explored make any sense or have any reason to feel connected to what you are now exploring. So it is what you are exploring in this life that has you attracted to and interacting with this individual, and then any past lives whereby you were together perhaps with a similar exploration will seem to stand out. Does that clarify the issue?
Yes, it does.
Well,
Very much.
but it still puts it back into the here and now. It still puts it back into your actions creating your vibration, and it still puts it back into the idea, perhaps as an illustration, that were your actions to now change according to the preferred you, and you now become, again, more of the vibration of who you prefer to be, and that individual does not do so, chances are in this life you would begin to not see so much of each other. If that individual happened to coincidentally, not by accident, but coincidentally explore his self-empowerment and preference at the same time, and you both come up Again, with a similar exploration, chances are you will continue to explore through that common bond, through that common exploration and action here and now. So you have everything you need right here and now to explain everything about here and now, and any other quote-unquote past life tangents are simply wallpaper or decoration that allow you to enhance what you are exploring right now, but not necessary. If you rip down that wallpaper, you'll still have the room, you'll still have the life.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, and him.
Elan?
There will be but a few more sharings to this interaction over there.
If we make positive, great changes or growth, does that affect other lives that we have had, or, in a sense you said that all lives are going on at one time? Do lives impact other ones?
Well, they can, again, as an enhancement, but not as a direct impulse or force. So again, they can enhance the scenery, but not produce a cause. The cause is distinct and discrete and complete within each life. So you truly have everything you need in every given moment to do anything you wish. However, should you choose to explore integrating and radiate that outward, you will then see bleed through from other lives, perhaps future lives or aspects of past lives where that had been explored to seem again to stand out, and then in concert seem to have some connection or continuity. So it can be an enhancement, but will never be the cause of causes. Nothing from a past life binds you any more than you define that it will.
No, I wasn't asking that. I don't think it does.
Well, I understand, but I am explaining the mechanism.
Okay. I think I understand.
Well, is there some question which may clarify it further?
Let's say I have a major revelation.
All right, I have a major revelation.
And I've become a much more integrated being. Does that bleeds through?
Lives whereby you had a similar revelation will seem to come to the surface. And in a sense, there will be an enhancement across the board, yes.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Over there, female.
I had reservations whether to ask this question or not.
Reservations, all right.
You talk about excitement, and of course, I understand that, but I had a slight hang-up or a question.
Well, how exciting. An opportunity for clarification.
Do you think some people might abuse the theory or the philosophy and just look out for themselves and not be considerate to other people and be self-centered? Would it feed the self-centeredness?
Absolutely. Excitement without integrity will, yes. That is why we are so emphatic about the linking of the two ideas. Simply doing what excites you, period, can have quite negative and self-destructive effects. For each time you embody something that lacks integrity, you can only have a result that would seem from your perspective to be lacking of integrity. So you live the results of those decisions. This is why, again, we are so emphatic about the integrity part. Doing what excites you, period, can perhaps be interpreted as hedonistic and selfish in the way that you mean that term. Doing what excites you with integrity never will fill either of those particular parameters. For it will always be being the expression of who you choose to be, being of service to yourself through the willingness to act upon that, and being of service to everyone else through your recognition of integrity. So they are two far different expressions altogether. And we generally do not even discuss the excitement without the integrity, for that is not our perspective. But you could allow individuals in that sense losing the integrity aspect to seemingly run amok, yes.
There could be certain situations where the line is so fine.
Well, not with integrity, no. If you really wish to be honest, each and every one of you has a completely accurate, completely immediate guide or gauge within you that tells you, is this in integrity? A yes or a no will come right up. Then you can rationalize yourself in or out of that, but you always know fundamentally. And if you say you don't, you are simply playing a game. You are not being honest with yourself. So the line is never that fine. Is this within integrity? Yes or no? The answer will always be obvious if you are honest.
Yes, thank you.
Does that answer the question? Or are you still hanging
I,
up?
I guess I had to come up with certain specific situations. Then I can ask more detailed questions. But in general, and there could be certain, for instance. Okay, I'm going to talk about my personal situation. That might make sense. When I decided to move out and be on my own, of course, the only thing that stopped me was my two daughters, very young, and I was going to be separated from them, and it wasn't a right thing for them. So,
Well, that was then. You did not make that decision since you have entertained the notions of excitement with integrity. So I assume in a similar set of circumstances, you possibly would not have done that. But the point is, everything that has led you up to exactly where you are right now has been of service to you. Some of it has been in integrity. Some of it has been from out of integrity to explore the difference. But you need not use that again as a form of self-blame. Simply the acknowledgement that from this point forward, you will express yourself in a different way.
yes, okay, that helps.
Is that clear?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Shutting. Ice.
I would like to ask further about something from our last interaction. You told me that I had been a teacher and lived many lifetimes in the Yucatan.
Well, not only there, but in one, that is just one of the places.
Was the idea that I had been a teacher many times, as in a sense, a spiritual teacher?
Well, in many ways, yes, but you have also physically been what you would call teacher of children on a more nuts and bolts level as well. So you have both experiences to draw from.
When I went home that evening, actually it was the next day, I had been told and have some remembrance of a lifetime there where I didn't act with integrity. I had power, and I had some influence in the religion at that time, and I felt very bad about it.
Well, you did not exist within a vacuum, I assure you. You were simply a product, so to speak, of the times and exploration of the entire civilization at that time. So you were simply playing your part. That was, shall we say, later on in the history, whereby much of the initial spiritual orientations of the civilizations had already began to take a back seat to fear.
So the things I introduced were
a sign of the times at that time in exploring, again, negativity that ultimately wound up drawing similar negativity, whereby the white brother simply was the deliverer of the same feeling that was being generated through the society in many cases.
The white brother meaning the coming of the Spanish?
Yes. It did not have to happen that way, but because the society at that point had, to some degree, steeped more in negativity and fear, that in this particular stream of dimensional reality was what was attracted, and only could have been what was attracted, and allows you to see that there was, quote unquote, to use your slang, trouble in paradise prior to that arrival. For only could there have been that attraction if there was first that exploration going on.
I have felt very bad about that, and
Why?
It harms so many people.
Well, the idea is that they all chose a particular exploration. You chose a particular exploration. Everyone played their part. Everyone got the effects. Everyone learned.
So I don't have to be guilty about that.
Oh, absolutely not. It will always be up to you.
Is it that has, I feel like it's just taken me so long to get my brochure, to get everything together, to be moving on this. Is it my guilt about things like that has, it's my guilt and my need to create time?
Well, yes, to a strong degree. Well, what perhaps you have not factored into it, and perhaps it is the timing in sharing this with you, is that in a sense, what you will create now will appear, and again, each life is distinct and creates and contains everything it needs, but there will be the apparency in this life through the willingness to teach in perhaps the more older fashion, a balance created. So the very thing that perhaps you hesitate and have anxiety or fear about is the very thing that will wind up being most conducive to allow you to act your way or move or do your way through it. This is the completion in many senses of a cycle. That you have participated in almost every aspect of that cycle. This is one of the most exciting aspects of the cycle, for it is the return home, so to speak, the integrative portion of the cycle.
So I guess it's been hard for me to get used to the idea that I would be doing teaching, or a good part of the teaching on these things. And I really did assume until 2 weeks ago that I was just a, facilitator, and I can make reservations and things like that. And I'm just starting to accept that I'm the creator in other aspects.
Nice. And now that you understand a distinction between an older time and a more recent, less integrated time, you can as well begin to draw from the older time. For that is just as present, just as simultaneous from the perspective of your higher self. Therefore, just as accessible. And in many ways, more accessible, for it is more alike of the exploration you are partaking of right now.
And when you mentioned that there would be initiations and things like that, that's in the sense then integrative, but again then drawing on the old, but integrative in the present sense.
Nice. And it will ultimately always be a new expression. It may have certain overtones and certain strengths that you will draw upon, but it will always be a third new creation that is completely distinct for the now that you are creating and more relevant to the contemporary train of thinking upon the planet at this time.
Therefore, I don't need to be limited by my assumption that I would necessarily work with, for example, Mayan teachers or whatever, because we are living now and we can draw from many sources, and we're creating a whole new world for ourselves.
Absolutely. Now, that need not mean you exclude the possibility, but instead of fixating on that as the only possibility, you actually increase your chances of attracting that as an enhancement. Remember, co-teaching need not simply mean two teachers. It can mean as many. And you can give different perspectives as well as ones that would seemingly only support themselves. It is completely up to you. There are very strong chances and likelihoods that you will at some point actually attract a Mayan. But you need not forsake that idea. Simply revel in the timing of it. And not fixate upon it from now till then. Simply get going. Give the gift that you have to offer and make no mistake about it. It is a gift.
And a last detail, then the other places I'm going to that I'm really attracted to, they're all just right because because there are. I'm interested in them, I like them, and therefore that's why we're going there.
Could not have said it better myself.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
Oh, and thank you, and all of you, for it is always up to you to create the reality that you prefer, and even the fact that you are considering that it is possible is highly encouraging. For the idea is that will be the first step. It does take one to know one, so as you are knowing that, you are also having the realization that you must contain it, that it is not something separate that you need obtain. It is not something external that you need to bring unto you, but is something within you, always within you, that you can express. And even to know it, you must already be it. Even to imagine something in that moment, you are that thing in order to imagine it. Therefore, this is the degree of your power. This is the degree of your ability to call forth from the infinity within you anything that will allow you to express yourself according to preference, according to excitement. Therefore, we thank you for being willing to be the vibration of the individuals that you are, and thank you for your continued willingness in sharing that vibration in a co-created reality that includes us. It brings us great joy, and as you perceive that you gain from these interactions, understand in no uncertain terms that we gain just as much and view you all as gifts or facets of a multidimensional crystal that is all that is. And we thank you for sharing your facet with ours. We bid you a most fond and loving life dream and dream lives, and good evening.